Morning, everyone. My name is Dale Matchek. I'm the chair of the Econ program here at Northwood University, and I'm pleased to welcome you to our Freedom Seminar. This is a panel discussion I've been looking forward to because it features three graduates of Northwood University in one form or another. These people have all been where you are now, and I hope that someday soon we'll see some of you up here where they are now. They are all highly influential and successful leaders in their business, and they're going to share with you today some of their insights about how sustainability shapes their business, their strategy, and their values. So let me tell you a little bit about them. First of all, we have Alison Orvosh. She is the entrepreneur, who started Phil, which is a company, a mid-Michigan company, that is a refillery and zero-waste shop located right here in Midland. And the purpose of Phil is to reduce the waste of household and personal care items using a closed-loop system. And I'm sure she's going to tell us exactly how that works. And as I said, she is a graduate of Northwood University. Please welcome Alison Orvosh. Next to her, we have Stephen Holty, who is the sustainability leader at Hemlock Semiconductor. Hemlock Semiconductor is a supplier of high-purity polysilicon for the electronic and solar power industry, enabling customers to produce high-tech electronics and solar panels. As the raw material used to create semiconductors, polysilicon is crucial for cell phones, computers, as well as the technology of the future, the Internet of Things, where artificial intelligence will meet new creations such as autonomous vehicles. Very exciting. So please welcome Stephen Holty. Oh, I forgot to mention he is a graduate of our DeVos Graduate School of Management. And finally, we have Chris Chandler, who is the executive director of the Dow Great Lakes Bay Invitational. And it's a sporting event featuring the greatest female professionals in the world that come here in a unique format to compete. And I've been there many times. It's a great event. And it's not just a golf tournament, though. It's an annual week-long series of events to celebrate the region and to make it an even better place to live and work for now and for future generations through charitable giving and partnering with local businesses in order to sustain economic growth. The tournament provides a platform to demonstrate Dow's core commitment to the values of integrity, respect for people, and protecting the planet. So Chris is a graduate both of our undergraduate and our graduate school. Please welcome Chris Chandler. If I could steal some of our panelists' time just to make an observation about the topic of today's panel, in many people's minds, business, economic growth, and environmental stewardship are natural enemies or even opposites. I think what our panelists will demonstrate is that far from that is the truth. Business drives environmental improvement and good environmental stewardship. Economic efficiency is not only consistent with, but even promotes environmental efficiency by saving on materials, by reducing waste. Many businesses are finding they can improve the bottom line, and this has been going on from the very beginning. So it's perfectly compatible with the Northwood idea that we would talk about the ways that entrepreneurs, innovators, entrepreneurs are working to promote a better environment. So I'm going to invite first Ali Orvosh up to talk about her experience and her business, Phil. Thank you, Alison.
Good morning. So I don't have to go over that. I'm from Northwood. That was already done. But I did graduate in 2010 with a BA in Marketing and Management. And I ended up going into the finance field, which is totally opposite. I was in the finance corporate field until just last year. when I decided to open up Fill. So Fill is a Refillery and zero waste shop located here in Midland, and it's the only one within a 90-minute radius. Excuse me. So this is our logo. Michigan, I believe, has about 9 different refilleries now, mostly in major cities like Kalamazoo, Detroit, Ferndale, areas like that. So what is a refillery exactly? It's a concept that's newer to Michigan, but has been popular in Europe and Canada. The word refillery comes from combining refill and brewery. So like a brewery, where you traditionally take in your growlers to refill your beer, you do the same concept here at Fill. You bring in existing containers that you already own and fill any household products or personal care products. So like shampoos, laundry detergents, hand soaps. We have glass cleaner, granite cleaner, pretty much anything you can think of. So this is just a picture of one of our tables in the store. We have a lot of glass containers that people pump out of. And our suppliers typically send us product in plastic bags, 5 gallons. Once those are emptied, we send those back to the companies. They sanitize and refill and resend. So that's what a closed loop system is. We don't have any waste. I did a waste audit within the store for a month, and that is simply tracking all the waste that we accrue, nothing that could be recycled. And we use less than 1 trash bag a month. So that's with all the shipments coming in and out. We have a lot of shipments coming in and out too. So these are called carboys, and these hold 5 gallons of liquids. So this is another way that people pump from the store. You can kind of see on the top, we do have some glass in store for sale if people don't have containers. We also have an area that people can leave containers for others to use for free. So this is what we're trying to get away from, buying this over and over and over again. So we do offer 96 different varieties of refill items, like I said before. All of our items are eco-friendly, essential oil-based and plant-based products. So on top of reducing waste, you're also getting a product that's safe for our waterways and ourselves, our soil, etc. So this is unfortunately what happens with a lot of our plastic, because only 9% of plastic is actually recycled. So all the plastic that's ever been made, 9% has been recycled. And that only gets you so far. You can recycle a product and reuse that product in a recycling situation only a couple times because of the high heat. So you can only break that down so many times and reuse it. This is the closed loop system I talked about, just a little quick diagram. Like I said, products ordered and delivered, product sells out, original containers sent back to the supplier, and it starts all over. So one of the things I deal with as a small business is larger companies like Tide. They claim to be green with their products, but they aren't, and that's called greenwashing. So it's great that larger corporations are trying to work towards a more sustainable product, whether it be the product or the packaging itself, but in reality, that's not really the case yet. So, of course, as a business, I'm not completely sustainable. It's pretty much impossible to be 100% sustainable in most things. But I do try to, obviously move in that direction as much as possible. One of the things I do deal with that I don't like is the carbon footprint of shipping. So in order to reduce that as much as I can, I try to order products from Michigan locally. So we do carry a lot of Michigan-made products. The mentality of being sustainable as a consumer is still growing. So I challenge you to think about this in the future. Think about what you're using, what you're throwing away, and if you have an option available to you, like fill, where you can refill items, even if it's one item, hand soap. You know, just the few things that you can cut down on yearly yourself will impact what goes into our landfills and overseas to a lot of Southeastern Asian countries that unfortunately take a lot of our plastic. So that's what I'm going to leave you with. I do have some flyers, little cards if anyone wants one later. It kind of gives the website and some more info. Okay.
Next, we'll hear from Steve Holty.
Thank you. I'm kicking myself. I have a slide deck I could have brought. I didn't even think to bring it, but I will talk through what it is that I am and how it is that I came here today, and what sustainability means to me and my company. So I am Stephen Holty. I am from South Dakota. I grew up in Aberdeen, South Dakota, and I have a chemical engineering degree from the South Dakota School of Mines and Technology. After about 5 or 6 years working for what we now call Heritage Dow Corning in the Midland plant, I flew over here from South Dakota, set up roots, and grew my life and my family here out of college. After about 6 years, I decided I want to know more about business, and so I came to Northwood for my MBA. I actually studied in this building. This was the DeVos building, and so it was easy to find it. I knew that I was going to work in technology. I liked chemical engineering, but I also had this theater background, so I do community theater at the Midland Center for the Arts, and I knew that I was going to retire as a Six Sigma Black Belt. If you're familiar, it's just a problem-solving methodology. Loved it. I was in a variety of technical leadership roles at Heritage Dow Corning, and then I moved to Hemlock Semiconductor because Heritage Dow Corning owned 80% of Hemlock Semiconductor. So I moved 20 minutes to the south to Hemlock, and that's where I'm at today. And I took on a variety of technical leadership roles and management roles and technologist type roles and leading teams, and I became a Six Sigma Black Belt, was going to retire as a Six Sigma Black Belt. And this sustainability world just kept popping up. And my business posted a sustainability leader role, and I dismissed it out of hand. I dismissed even thinking about applying for this role. And I think that's one of the biggest things I wanted to impart to you is I saw sustainability and didn't understand it. And I saw sustainability leader and I didn't understand how I would even connect with it because I'm a technology leader and that's what I want to do. And because of my theater background and because of many public speaking gigs that I did at my work and technology presentations, the leaders at HSC kind of came after me and said, well, why aren't you applying for this job? And the root cause of why I didn't apply for the job is because I didn't understand it. And it is cool that I get to be here today to help you understand exactly what it is. So I'm about 24 years now in the industry, the first 6 at Heritage Dow Corning and the last 18 at HSC. HSC, a little bit about what we do there to give you some grounding before I get into sustainability. We produce about 1/3 of the world's polysilicon. Jason talked about it, and he talked about it perfectly. So he laid the groundwork for what I'm about to say very well. We produce about 1/3 of the world's hyper-pure polysilicon. We go from 99% purity metallurgical grade silicon, that's 99% pure silicon, 1 penny impurity out of $1, to 11 nines of hyper purity. That means the purity level is 1 penny of impurity out of $1 billion. And that hyper purity is required to make our smartphones run, our laptops run, our cars run, all of the Internet of Things in your house run, all the Wi-Fi enabled run. So we get to produce that in Hemlock, about 25 minutes to the south of here. And it's really cool that we get to do that. And I could tell you the names of our customers, but you wouldn't know their names. You wouldn't know any of those businesses. But you know the end user to the next 2 or 3 levels down in the supply chain because you know Intel, Dell, Apple, Google, Facebook, anybody with a device with a computer chip, GM, Tesla. Those are the end users. You are the end users of our product. So we get to make 1/3 of the polysilicon that goes into that. Back in 2000, and this is where the sustainability story starts for Hemlock Semiconductor. And please tell me when I'm about 10 minutes so that I don't talk too long, because I'll talk for a while. Around 2000, the solar industry was knocking and said, we need hyperpure polysilicon for solar panels. And it was a tiny little niche market. The only people using solar before 2000 to any real level were NASA. They were using them in the space station. But this market was picking up of solar. And so we started making polysilicon in the solar industry sometime before 2000. To the point where we went from less than $1 billion asset in Hemlock making semiconductor for computer chips to over $3 billion asset in Hemlock making semi plus solar. In 2008, 2009, we looked for another big expansion into solar, and we put over $1 billion expansion down in Tennessee. So it was a big thing. So we became a $4 billion company, and we were getting ready to start up our Tennessee solar asset. And the trade wars and tariff wars started with China, and we got locked out. Between 2010 and 2013, we built the plant, and we were ready to start it up, and we never started it up down in Tennessee. And it is now a Google site. Google puts their one of their many cloud-based systems, you know, their memory, their clouds there. We had to demo it completely. We have been sold out, or excuse me, we have been blocked out of the solar industry from 2010 to 2020. So in the last 2 years, we went to zero. So our $3 billion asset was only making semiconductor going into the computer chip industry, and that has been strong, right? But all of that growth for solar was wiped out. Sustainability. One of the questions is well, what is it? To be honest with you, my company never had a sustainability leader until it made really good business sense. And so I'm being honest with you to say that I believe in sustainability and everything that I'm doing. And I'll talk your ear off about sustainability. But I didn't even know what it was, and I dismissed the role out of hand because I didn't realize what a mega trend importance it was for us as a human society. So my business leaders said, well, if we're going to be in solar, if we're going to run the whole $3 billion asset in Hemlock, Michigan, and not just $1 billion asset that makes semi, then we're going to need to figure out who the users of solar is and what our market is. This is now back to MBA. And so in the semi market, we just dealt with our customers that buy us directly. We never dealt with Dell. We never dealt with Google or the big utilities putting in solar, because it is it is a leading now solar form of energy, as Jason said. Well, because we were blocked out of China, and since 2010, China has now 95% of the market of what we do, and we got blocked out of selling into China, we weren't talking to any of the Chinese companies that wanted to buy our polysilicon. So we went 2 levels of the supply chain down, and we talked to Google, Apple, all of the clean energy buyers. We got involved in Clean Energy Buyers Alliance. We started talking to all the utilities that are putting in solar and wind type projects. Nobody in North America or Europe is putting in coal projects to make electricity. They're putting in solar and wind. We started talking to the end users. We started talking to those people to create pull-through demand. As a result of that, we actually got involved in the Uyghur investigation, and we made sure that we were part of an alliance that was saying, hey, not all solar panels are created equal. Look at us in Michigan. Look at the way that we treat our environment, the way that we treat our employees. There's no forced labor. There's no Uyghur type issues.
I just want to interrupt. So I'm not sure everybody is aware of the Uyghur situation.
Oh,
if you want to provide
in northwest China, there is a region where there are Muslim Chinese people that are being forced to work and are being indoctrinated into the communist way and being told, no, you're not a Muslim person. You are a Chinese person, and we don't believe in religion. And then they send them to schools where they have to learn not to be Muslim, and where they are forced to work. So we help make that a thing. We, with a very distinct business purpose, but also a humanitarian purpose, said, let's shine a spotlight on that so the world knows what's happening. And then we said, we are part of a supply chain outside of China that doesn't do that. So everything Jason was saying, I resonate with. Because I want to belong into a community and to a people and to a society that treats our planet and our people right so that we have prosperity, which is what sustainability is. Sustainability is will you continue to exist and prosper for all people and for the planet. So when I read who was presenting before me, I was behind the 8 ball. And I texted you and I said, hey, can I come sit in? Because I really want to hear what he has to say. And he started speaking my language. So everything Jason said, I want to emulate. Now we could talk forever about the politics and the government, and it'd be fun. But so that's what Hemlock Semiconductor is, and that's how we got into sustainability. So what my job is I learned to become a mile deep in what sustainability is. Sustainability for me, and as a leader in sustainability and technology, is how you measure it. And that's ESGs. And that's how Wall Street measures it and investors measure it. ESGs, environmental, social, and governance metrics. ESGs. So if you hear about ESGs as an investor, tune in. And there are some people that are going to try to tweak and game those. So that's why the SEC is going to start to get involved. And government's going to start to get involved. And I understand what Jason says about government, but sometimes you need a watchdog. The first Earth Day was in 1970, April, this month, 52 years ago. The people said, we want to stop polluting and we want to stop burning all the rivers. They're just catching on fire. And the EPA was born. The EPA was born several months after Earth Day. The people rose up and said, no more. And they anointed government. I don't think government should be the solution all the time, but that was the start of regulating and us treating our planet better. And now ESGs are a thing, and businesses are trying to leverage them. And I am involved in my company's ESGs to the nth degree, calculating our carbon footprint, helping calculate how our DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion metrics look, how our safety metrics look, how it is that we govern ourselves for people, planet, and prosperity. I get to do that. I love it. I'm glad I took a risk and signed the job. I get to be here talking with you guys. This is cool. I get to fight the fight with you. So yeah, I'm looking forward to your questions. That, in a nutshell, is what a sustainability leader is in a multi-million-dollar company 25 minutes south of here. And we used to be the kid brother of Dow. So when we were Heritage Dow Corning, Dow was 40% owner. And so I can't wait to hear what Chris has to say.
Thank you.
Yep.
Now, Chris Chandler will speak to another aspect of sustainability as it relates to community relations and development. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Dale. And hey, happy to be here this morning. Interesting sustainability leader. why am I here? I am not a sustainability leader at all. So I'll give you a little background. I grew up in Petoskey, Michigan, a couple hours north of here. Very small town. Ended up at Northwood here. Primarily, I knew I wanted to get into business of some sort. Had really no idea what that was that I wanted to get into at the time, but I was in DECA in high school and did a few other things. Was like, you know what, that's probably like my path somehow. So came to Northwood. Also played on the golf team, so that was a little bit of part of why I came here. Had the opportunity to play collegiate sports. Loved my time here so much. Went to term in Europe my senior year. Allowed me to actually redshirt my senior year. Don't hear of that very often in athletics, right? Most people redshirt their freshman year. So I redshirted my senior year so that I could come back and go to DeVos and get my MBA and still have one more year of eligibility to play golf while getting your MBA. So it's kind of an interesting path, but it was fun and cool, and definitely am thankful, and that's why I like being here. I feel like Northwood was really the start of my career in some sense. You know, it was education, yes, but that was really the start of my career. So where did I go from there? A guy I met here, actually at Northwood. We started a small company together, an event marketing company. So event marketing guy, sustainability, where's this going? We'll get there. We started an event marketing company. My buddy actually did the Olympic torch relay. You guys ever heard of the Olympics? Yeah? Okay. The torch goes around whatever country usually that the Olympics is in. The torch will spend about 90 days in advance kind of making pit stops all over the country, right? So my buddy got an internship with a company at the time called Campbell Ewald, who was doing the management of the Olympic torch relay for Chevrolet, who was the big sponsor. This was the O2 Salt Lake Games, so that dates me a little bit. We were seniors here at Northwood. He got this opportunity, ends up working for the head guy that's running the whole Olympic torch relay kind of as his intern. This guy ends up calling him up 6 months later and says, hey, would you want to work for me? We've got an opportunity here. He was like, okay. So he called me. He's like, hey, this guy called me. He wants us to start a company, and he's got a client for us right out the gate. I was kind of like, okay, so where's this going? He's like, well, do you want to start this company? I was like, okay, so let's start a company. And essentially what we did is we came back and hired 15 of our friends from Northwood that were younger than us, still at school. And they worked for us, and we did event marketing programs for General Motors, Ford, Volvo, all around the country, basically helping them to promote their vehicles at all kinds of events, from state fairs and festivals to home and garden shows, boat shows, Major League Baseball games, college football, you name it. So that's what we did. So fast forward, did that for about 8 or 9 years. Eventually got married, started to have kids, and really wanted a life that I could be home. I was traveling about 95% of the time on the road at the time, which, you know, being 23 and out of college was awesome. And we had a lot of great experiences, but I kind of needed to settle down. And so my wife at the time was working for Dow, and an opportunity came up to work with Dow in their events team. So it's kind of a perfect match. So I did events at Dow for about 8 years, basically running all the corporate and like business style events. So we would entertain customers of Dow's at kind of all those same big sporting events around the world, the Super Bowl, Kentucky Derby, Indy 500, Masters, all that stuff. And then we'd also have like huge business meetings where we'd get together our entire sales force and commercial team, 500, 600, 800 people. And so we were event planners, so I would, you know, help kind of coordinate all of that. And then basically it was 2017, an opportunity came up where Dow was looking into a sponsorship with the LPGA, Ladies Professional Golf Association. So this is the women's version of the PGA Tour, for those that maybe aren't into golf. These are the best women in the world at playing golf. They compete annually for $80 million plus in purse money. They host 34 annual events around the globe, actually more global than the PGA Tour is, in a sense of like where they compete. And so Dow is kind of looking at a partnership with the LPGA and bringing an LPGA event to Midland, Michigan. And a buddy of mine at Dow, who was working in the sports marketing group at the time, came to me and was like, hey, he had been to a bunch of events that I had helped plan and was around, and he's like, hey, you're like the best event planner that I know. Will you come with me, help me build this idea that we would host an LPGA event here in Midland, Michigan, and if we do, I want you to run it. I was like, okay, that kind of sounds cool, right? So we put together a proposal, worked with the LPGA, brought in all kinds of companies to even do a feasibility study on my first question, like, this is like on, TV every week on CBS. Like, I'm like, how is Midland, Michigan, like, going to do this? Do we have enough hotel rooms? Is our golf course good enough? Do we have the right infrastructure for any of this, And so we had to bring in a lot of people to help us kind of analyze all that. And at the end of the day, the answer was yes. Actually, they loved Midland and the Great Lakes Bay region specifically. The LPGA does really good in small to mid-sized markets. When they go sometimes to San Francisco or Chicago or Washington, D.C., the LPGA, while it's the best female athletes in the world competing for over $80 million a year, they don't always get the fame and fortune really that they should. And when they go to big cities, it's kind of about 20 down the list of what people really pay attention to. So they love small communities like this where they can come in and really, I think I could arguably say this is the biggest event this region has ever hosted on an annual basis now. That's on Golf Channel, on CBS. The ladies are competing for $2.5 million purse. So this was the opportunity, right? So we're like, okay, well, we had to go sell that to our executive leadership team. So we go in with the presentation and go meet our CEO and like, hey, what do you think of this idea? And we actually sent the presentation in advance. And he had read the entire thing cover to cover. So we go in and we're like, all prepared, like we're meeting with the CEO, right? Like that's a big deal. We're a Fortune 50 company, right? And we go in and we're all planned out, gonna, walk through this whole thing. And he's like, so you really think we can do this? I'm like, yeah. Do you want to walk through any details? No, I read it. All right. And we basically, like, he said, okay, go do this. And we were like, okay. So, and he said, I want you to run this too. He had been at a bunch of events too. So that's kind of how I got into this role. So that basically got me into the role of leading and kind of creating an LPGA event from scratch. So it was kind of up to us to determine, well, what is this event going to be? Obviously, it's going to be a professional golf tournament, right? Like, ladies are going to come, they're going to compete, it's going to be on TV, all of that. But what else is this event going to do? What's it going to do for our company? How's it going to bring value for our company? What's it going to do for our community that we live in? What's it going to do? What's it going to be? That was the opportunity that we had, and that's why I'm here today, is to talk about the opportunity that we had and how we ingrained sustainability into a world-class professional sporting event. So one of Dow's missions is to be the most innovative, sustainable, inclusive, and customer-centric company on the planet, okay? So what I did as an event planner and as seeing the opportunity to grow this event into something that would bring value for our company, I took our company's mission and vision and values, and I said, how do we infuse all of that into a golf tournament? So the sustainability piece, specifically, I started researching and going to other events, reading, how does an event become sustainable? What does that mean? What do you do? Guys, I think we have like a sustainability minor here now at Northwood, right? That wasn't here when I was here. I don't think we ever talked about sustainability in any class I was ever in. I never took a class on sustainability. I've never had an education on sustainability. I'd never done anything in sustainability before that moment, to be frank with you. Like, nothing.
Same.
Right.
Same.
So I'm like, but this is the opportunity, right? So my point is, you don't have to be a major in sustainability and have all this knowledge, but you got to have innovation and see a vision on what it can be. And so we did a ton of research. I went to, you may have heard of the Waste Management Phoenix Open on the PGA Tour. They build themselves as the greenest event on grass, right? So I went down there and learned a bunch from them, as well as a bunch of other events, and said, how do you do this? And I eventually learned that there is a sustainability certification for professional golf events specifically. It's kind of like any ISO or LEED certification criteria that you would go to. And so I found the company that runs this certification. It's called Geo Foundation, Golf Environmental Organization. They're based out of Scotland, and they are basically certifying any professional sporting event that goes through this process. Now, it is not easy to go through this process. There's a 55 checkpoint chart that has multiple layers of 10 to 20 things within each of those 55 that you have to do to obtain this certification. And it's all about, it's not all about just recycling or waste management, which is what you would think, right? Like, oh, it's probably about reducing your waste at an event. Well, yeah, but it's also about procurement. It's about access and equity. It's about leaving a lasting impact in your community. It's about planning and communications. So sustainability from an event standpoint is much broader than we're just talking about material or resource management. So we can dive more into what we've achieved with an event and all of our sustainability criteria, and look forward to answering questions to kind of dive into that more, Dale. Thanks. Yeah.
All right, before we get to your questions, I did prepare a few questions for our panel that I'd like to give them a chance. And, these questions are for anybody that wants to, and if you don't want to answer this particular question, that's fine too, but I'll just throw these out there. First of all, a couple of you already alluded to it up here. The word sustainability is one of those words that people don't always understand, and might be interpreted in different ways. So I'm wondering what sustainability means to you, if you could define it for us in your own words, or as it applies to your own industry. So who wants to handle this?
I'll say what I said at the end. I think of sustainability as how you measure it. Yeah, like how your event measures if you're doing well. And you gave a couple examples. And you, in your sustainability world, are mile deep in recycle and minimizing how much is wasted. And in my world, they call that circular economy as well. But sustainability is also all the ESGs, environmental, social, and governance. Like a couple of the examples are carbon footprint. That's a big one for E. And I've loved talking to Jim Fitterling around single-use plastic, and he talked at the Great Lakes Invitational, the Sustainability Summit with Mary Draves, and it was a really cool discussion around single-use plastic. And you are innovating. These people want to know about innovating. You are innovating around single-use plastic. That's huge for sustainability. Social. Right now, my company is has been traditionally 85% white male. So we don't think that's sustainable. We don't think we're drawing from the right talent pools. We need to change. We've been changing our practices now for years in order to draw on all of the talent in the region and all around the U.S. So that's part about being sustainable, is we don't want to cease to exist because we're not tapping into all the talent, right? And then governance. One that we take for granted, ESG governance, is are your executives skimming off the top? How do you run the place? Well, no. We have all kinds of policy and procedure and oversight to make sure that they're not. And those are a couple examples. Sustainability is what you measure. So that's one example.
I would say to me, Dale, sustainability, it's about doing better for our world. I mean, at the end of the, yes, I think I step back, like, what is it personally? Not like business or, that's all for the corporate world, but I think personally, it's about how do we do better individually and how do we talk about that and be advocates for it, because we need more people to talk about it and be advocates for it, and also take one step to just do something. Because what we found is, like, if you can take one step, get one person to do one thing, that person now understands it, gets it, and that person will do more things, and they'll talk about it with their friends, and then that person will talk about it with their friends. We need more people doing things and talking about it.
Ali, did you want to respond to this
I was
question?
going to say, kind of in that realm, just progress is what sustainability means to me on a lower level, on a personal level. Doing better as an individual. So, because once that happens, it becomes a whole.
Okay. Now, I have learned something from your brief remarks up here about how you got into sustainability. But, Ali, I want to ask you in particular, you started this business. Were you motivated more by the sustainability value, or was it, this is a business opportunity, I want to? So can you talk a little bit about that profit motive versus, progress motive?
Sure. So it wasn't really profit motivated. Like I said, I worked in finance in the corporate industry for many, many years beforehand. I worked at Dow. So I just wanted to get out of that personally. Once COVID started, this is a popular thing with people, right? Like finding what you really want to do. I knew I wanted to do something with sustainability. Started researching and finding this concept in larger cities and in Europe, and thought that's a great thing. Why don't we have that here? So that's just how that progressed, and I quit my job and opened a business.
Oh my goodness, that takes guts. I don't remember who said it, but one of my favorite quotes about entrepreneurship is, create the product that you wished you could buy. And it sounds like that was part of your motivation. Yeah. What about profitability and sustainability at these other industries? Is profitability part of it, or?
Absolutely.
Let's hear about it.
Okay, so our bedrock has been parts and aspects of sustainability for years. When I worked at Heritage Dow Corning and at Hemlock Semiconductor, some bedrock things was safety and environmental care. It was bedrock. We wanted to send our workers home the same as when they came to work. Safety is a bedrock, and that is part of sustainability. It's part of the umbrella. Treating the environment well has always been a bedrock in our industry in the last couple decades of where I work. But as an industry, back to the 1970s, we weren't self-regulating, right? So is it profitable to take care of the environment? Yes, when 90 billion people on the planet agree. When 90 billion people on the planet agree that we're going to treat our planet better, like draw down our carbon footprint, when all of us agree, then you help create the market. You help the pull, and then I see it and my business see it, and I can convince my executives as a sustainability leader. My executives, hey, I walk into the meeting, they pre-read and they say, you think this will work? Like, yeah. If we continue to do these projects, we continue to buy renewable energy, and we draw down our carbon footprint, people are buying it. That makes it easy for the CEO to say, yep, let's do it, because the people buying agree. There is a profit aspect to it, to the 3P, the triple bottom line: people, planet, prosperity. Ultimately, we all have to convince somebody like a CEO to do the right thing, to take the step.
Right, and I guess I would ask, since you described your customers are not necessarily at the retail level, so when you say people are buying it, you're talking about these customers that are kind of invisible to the rest of us. Why are they demanding sustainability?
Because if I want to sell an Apple product, and I can stamp it with something that says that we are using a more sustainable way of processing it, and I can get my product into it, then that's how you as a buyer can use your choice to say, why would I buy this versus that? And it's easy sometimes for businesses to try to confuse the issue, like the greenwashing. But that's where I'm advocating in my business that we make it harder and harder for greenwashing and choose us because we make it better than China.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
And I want to, I don't know whether any of you had Dale Haywood as an instructor. You did, Chris. So he always talked about who is in charge, and the customer is in charge.
Yeah,
so whatever the customer values
yes.
as a business, you don't really have much choice.
Right.
Yeah. And Chris, did you want to respond to the question about profitability? And
Yeah, definitely, because so we've done all of the sustainability work for our event, okay? Last speaker, we heard about sustainability costs more, right? It's more expensive. And it cost our event more money to go down a sustainability path and certification and all of this stuff than it would any other event out there. Absolutely. We spent more money. So when you look at budget, you're like, okay, well, where's the balance here, right? What good are we going to get from this?
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because I honestly draw back to my Northwood education and Dale and you and other folks that have talked about thinking differently. There's always an opportunity here, right? So from our perspective, yes, we spent $40,000 more dollars on a multi-million-dollar budget. We spent $40,000 more dollars to be sustainable, to go through all the stuff we did for our event. You know what we also did? We created sponsorships to allow other companies to come in and join in on that path with us because we saw a value opportunity. Sure, yeah, there's an expense here. Now we're bringing in 5x in revenue from selling sustainability sponsorships and partnerships for a golf event. So it's thinking differently and always looking for an opportunity. You know?
I love that. So I know a number of you talked specifically about your business, but you had a limited time. Are there any other examples that you'd like to share about specific projects or success stories that you would like to share that you didn't get a chance to?
Yeah, I have so many technical examples I could share, but I won't bore your mind. I won't bore anybody with it because this is a business school. I'm a chemical engineer with an MBA. But what I will tell you is we thought we were a year-over-year energy efficiency seeking company, right? When I looked at the problem of carbon intensity, and I did the carbon footprint calcs with my team, and they showed me energy is where it's at for my particular business. When I started looking at the problem of energy efficiency because of carbon, it's like taking energy efficiency and turning it on its head and trying to look at it. We're starting to find so much opportunity in our process as a result of looking at energy intensity with a carbon footprint bend instead of simply a cost. So what I'm convincing our employees and our executives to do is marry cost and carbon from here on out. There's never a cost component without a carbon component, and if you're looking for carbon, you will also find cost. And so that's my example is we are finding new ways of innovating because of sustainability.
So you're using some kind of carbon accounting
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm using $51 per metric ton of carbon. Now, that's not being taxed. That's not a carbon price today in the U.S. or Michigan or in our region, but I'm using it to help show people it could be, and that there's other companies that are using carbon tax or shadow cost to help value carbon. So then I can say, if you do that energy project, it not only saves you cost, but there's this adder, and it's about, in consumers' energy for us, a 1.6x adder, so nearly a 2x adder for cost and carbon. So we're marrying cost and carbon. and it's a huge opportunity for us.
Any other responses?
Yeah, if you like from a carbon standpoint, we've got a pretty unique example where we did a partnership with the IOC in the Olympics in 2016, where they wanted to offset all of the carbon footprint that the IOC had. Holy cow! How do you do that? So what we did was a basic, in the simplistic form, and there's a lot more depth to it, but we did a marketing deal with them that said, Dow will help you offset all of your carbon footprint, IOC, okay? How are we gonna do that? Well, we're gonna take this big bucket of money here, and we're gonna invest in projects with our customers that are going to save carbon downstream from either process or new product manufacturing, different materials being used, all kinds of different examples. Basically, what we did was we invested money in our customers, their processes and products to reduce carbon footprint, to take that carbon footprint and offset it with the IOC. So it's a win for the IOC, they get their carbon footprint offset. It's a win for our customers, they get a more sustainable product, process, et cetera. And it's a win for Dow. We get deeper into our customer with new product innovation. So kind of again, just thinking about things differently. How do we help change? You know?
Mm-hmm. Cool. Last question from me, then we'll start taking some questions from the audience. But these answers could take us anywhere. Look into your crystal ball at the future of your company or at the future of sustainability. What are some of the challenges and opportunities that we face going forward?
Challenges with Phil are obviously just getting people on board, having them understand why I'm doing this and what the purpose is, and that they can actually make a difference themselves.
Allie, just as a question, scalability for your business. If you got all the customers excited about what you do, is it scalable? Could you? Are there efficiencies from growing at your company that would be available to you?
I'm sure. I haven't gotten to that point yet.
I hope you will. But
yeah, I've actually had a few people reach out already asking if I would franchise, so that's exciting. But I'm not to that point yet. So.
Okay.
Dale, I'll focus on the opportunity part.
Okay.
From I'm in sports marketing. I think sports, we're starting to see this, and you can go out and look at the research and stuff too. That people, you used to be. I'll go back, 50 years ago, you were a sports fan of your local sports team, right? If you lived in Chicago, you were a Chicago sports fan no matter what, right? And then there was an evolution where now it's like, okay, maybe over the last couple decades, you've been a fan of a particular athlete. So let's take LeBron James, for example. You might be a fan of him, you might not. But if you were a fan of his, whether he was in Cleveland or Miami or LA or Cleveland or wherever he is these days, I don't know. But you were a fan of LeBron. The sports fan of today, and of the last couple of years and of tomorrow, I think is also starting to value athletes, leagues, teams, their values. What do they stand for? What do they represent? Who do you follow from an athlete perspective on social media? Do you follow people that you don't really jive with or get along with, or think that you have maybe some of the same core values? Probably not, right? Because you don't want to hear what they don't have to say. So I think sports, particularly athletes, teams, leagues, have an opportunity right now to ingrain more sustainability practices to be a leader for the world, to help change come about quicker.
Seems true to me. I would say energy and the energy transition. Energy intensity or carbon intensity in our energy. So coal was the highest carbon intensity. So when coal is burned to make electricity, it's around 1,000 kilograms per megawatt hour. Natural gas is about half of that. And then it goes down drastically with all the renewable energies, including nuclear. Okay? So the transition from coal to the transitory natural gas to all the renewables, it's going to be bumpy, as Jason said earlier. But that is the number one way that we draw down carbon in our atmosphere. It's a huge opportunity, and that's the reason why it's scalable right now, and it's happening. Now, I'll talk your ear off about that, but I see that as a huge opportunity.
All right. Well, I want to turn now to members of our audience. We also have people who are joining us online. Feel free, if you're online, to type your question in the area provided there to the right-hand side of your screen. And I see a couple of hands up already, so we'll start with Randall's question.
So you said that you have a Lean Six Sigma black belt. Would you say that the efficiencies, like having that, like have you learned the efficiencies of like changing your processes, like to like better sustainability? Do you find that having that Lean Six Sigma black belt is helpful?
Absolutely. Like I think I mentioned, I thought I would retire as a black belt doing projects and programs. And I'm calling on the black belts and strategic project leaders with that Lean Six Sigma background to help lead projects to continue our year-over-year energy efficiency.
Would you say that more people need to get that to like better sustainability? Like how many people do you think actually have it in the field of sustainability?
In the field of sustainability?
Yeah.
I don't think that I have the qualification to even hazard a guess. When you're a chemical engineer, it's a path to being able to lead really good, successful projects. When you're in any type of engineering or STEM type field, Six Sigma black belt is a methodology to get you there with utilizing the science-based method. I don't know. I can't even hazard a guess, but it wouldn't hurt anybody in this room, especially if you want to study problems and come up with solutions.
Michael?
So for all three of you, there are two things I heard that I'd like to just hear people talk more about. One was the idea of where's the company get its demand for this? And it's from the customer, right? So if anyone who's taking your micro, you'll remember we have the discussion of every company's demand for anything is because of what their customer demands. Right? Like Ford Motor Company has a demand for steel, right? They have a demand curve for steel because you have a demand, for a car. And so, you'd like to hear more about, extending that, of how our demand for anything translates to the company's demand for anything. And I'll say, like, personally, when I buy a fish oil supplement, and one thing I look for is you can get a stamp on it, International Fish Oil Standard, which is a private company that will do laboratory testing for like mercury and dioxins and PCBs and all that. No government agency there. I was the one who wanted that on the. And the second thing is the remark about I think it was Chris. I think you mentioned about helping your own customers be more sustainable. So that reminded me of in Bert Folsom's book, The Myth of the Robber Barons. So he talks about the progressive era. You had some of the what we would consider robber barons, like people who basically got rich off of government subsidies and privileges. But he contrasts that with companies that got rich by serving their customers well. So an example of that he gives is James Hill's Great Northern Railroad. Provided farmers with like agricultural education because he figured the more crop they grow, the more they'll have to ship on my railroad. And so I guess on that theme, I'd like to hear anything more on that kind of theme and how that might apply here.
Yeah, I think from our event perspective, like why sustainability, I would hope that all of the things that are a part of our sustainability practices and all of the things that we're doing, like I talked about, from procurement to access and equity to our communication, et cetera, that would also create an event that you would want to go to because you know that this event has a sustainability certification that you look for on your local fish oil. It is doing good in your local community by giving back and partnering with local organizations. It's bringing economic development to this region. So I think from that perspective, yeah, it should be consumer-led and driven. And I would hope that the things that we're doing make people feel good about coming to our event because of the things that we're doing. So yeah, it's definitely something. Absolutely.
I have a very specific example where when we first started trying to convince people that not all solar panels are created equal and that they should look at us, it was very difficult when they would say, okay, we'll write it into our request for proposal, our RFP. There was no that was easy button to say that has our poly in it. So we've been working on supply chain traceability. We've been working on showing people the path to buy our product because they want to. Right? There are buyers out there that want to buy our product, but we haven't made it easy for them to see it. As an example, we need to when we're upstream of a supply chain, when you're not selling a product like a hand of vent or a Ziploc, or we're not selling this product. So that's been our struggle, being upstream of a supply chain of the end user.
There's a question here
Yeah.
first, and then we'll.
This one's for Chris. Doing events like sustainability for the LPGA, I was wondering if you knew if that was interested in any other events aside from LPGA or any sports events where they focus on sustainability, whether that's in like improving customer relations or environmental.
Yeah, great question. It's so not only do I run our LPGA event, but we also have sports partnerships with the PGA Tour, with Richard Childress Racing and NASCAR, with Jaguar Racing and Formula E. We have host an annual WTA tennis event here in Midland. We have partnerships with professional athletes. We have partnership with USA Luge, and I could go on. So I oversee all of that at Dow and look at not just the one event, how do we bring sustainability into one event, but absolutely, we look at it across all of those partnerships. And one example, I mean, I gave you the Olympics example. Other examples are professional athletes. All the athletes that we sponsor are committed to being carbon neutral athletes. So it's not just one event.
Yeah.
Absolutely, we look at it across every partnership we have, and how do we drive value for the company? What's important to the company through all of those partnerships? So yeah.
Yes. So I have two questions. Each of them are not really relevant to the other ones. But, so my first question is, what's your guys' professional opinion on how the current administration is handling the transfer over to greener energy? And then my second question, I don't know if you guys are familiar with it or not, but there's this crazy guy on the internet with the name of Alex Jones. You might agree, some of the stuff he does is very controversial, but he's got this one theory out right now, talks about this Jurassic warming period, about how clean carbon is actually good for the environment. And because of the plants need carbon to grow, so the more carbon is released in the environment, the taller the trees grow and the more oxygen they produce and the bigger we get and those kind of things. So I don't know if there's any,
It might not be in their particular field of expertise, but if you guys want to handle that, you're.
I'm just an automotive marketing advanced student. I don't really know anything about this.
I can take a stab at that. I told you back in 2010 we started being locked out of China. So for two administrations, the Obama administration and the Trump administration, we have unsuccessfully gotten back into the China market, selling into. So two different administrations and, Democrat and Republican both failed to open the door for us, and that was a losing strategy to try to rely on the government. So in answering your question about how's the Biden administration doing with clean energy, don't expect an administration to solve this problem, because in my experience, it will not happen. So what we did is we went and we created our own market and our own call, and we are part of the sustainability movement because it's important. It's the right thing to do, and it does sound. So how are they doing with energy transition? Back to what Jason said, government exists. They're going to try to solve problems. I'm not confident that they are going to solve this problem. We need to agree that climate change is real. We need to agree that we need to solve this problem. And that's a way of dancing around a very tough question. I don't know how he's doing, how that administration is doing, because I'm not an expert. But I know that two previous administrations failed to get us into China. Now, reshoring is what we should do. So if Biden has reshoring policies, then get behind them as an American. If Trump had reshoring policy, get behind him. Get behind that policy.
Yeah, I do feel the political questions are, they've just gotten a lot more complicated because of what's happening in Europe today. So I feel like this is a fast developing question, and maybe some of our other experts today, if you keep that in mind, they might have an answer for you too. Next question. Yes.
Is there anything that the state of Michigan could do to make it more pro-business state? I know it's not a sustainability question, but out of curiosity.
It is a sustainability question, because if we're not going to have business in this state, then we will not be a sustainable state. And is there anything that the Michigan can do?
Yeah, try to loosen up regulation or.
I wish I was an expert in that. I'm not an expert in that either. So. I do know that government, the more they get involved, we need to have a good balance. We need to have a good balance.
Now, I'm going to make use of your presence here today to make an impromptu advisory board. Since you're all associated with Northwood and you care about our future and the sustainability of Northwood University, and based on your experience, we probably have progressed in a lot of ways since you were here. But based on your memories of Northwood and what you bring to it now, based on your more recent experience, what advice would you have to Northwood University to make us more sustainable, or perhaps to help our students in their business curriculum move into this new business world?
Understanding the concepts that we talk about here today in an introductory class would be helpful. And then you could generate teams of students that go out as part of their projects in their class, finding opportunities on campus, but just having it be a thing, right? Like Chris went out and learned because he didn't have that introductory class. I had to go out and learn because I turned down this job, didn't realizing how important it was. So that's one part of the discussion is have some introductory classes where they actually do some projects.
I know that Chelsea Butler on campus does a lot with sustainability right now too.
Chelsea Butcher.
Excuse me, yep.
Yeah.
So I know she's a good person to even stop by and talk with, about sustainability. She's tried to include Phil in a lot of her classes this last semester. So with students coming to me with questions or trying to get them into the store to learn about things. So I know that's been helpful.
Mm-hmm. By the way, with respect to Phil and other new startups, is there some kind of organization, association, which small businesses belong to, that they can help support each other, promote each other, combine resources? Are there things like that available to new business startups?
Yeah, absolutely. Midland has the Midland Business Alliance, which I'm part of.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a way to network and get to know other small businesses or larger businesses.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
I went to a ribbon cutting of the CMU RC. Are you familiar with that organization? might be an interesting collaboration Northwood could have. It's no longer associated directly with CMU, it just has a name.
Oh, interesting.
But it's an entrepreneurial organization, and they did their ribbon cutting at that McLaren building up there by the mall. You familiar with it? Okay. Yeah. That very entrepreneurial spirit that Northwood could potentially be involved in.
Jill, I would say from a university perspective, obviously we have a sustainability minor, so there is something happening in this place, right?
Right.
I guess from a larger university perspective, what is it that the university would want to achieve by going down that path? And then I'd start to, I mean, I would look at like Princeton University, I know, for example, is huge into sustainability as a university. I mean, everything they do now, it's ingrained across every operational piece of the university, a sustainability mindset. And so if that is something that's important to Northwood to get more students to come here, which is ultimately what we're here for, right? To educate more students about the Northwood idea.
Right. So it sounds like you're talking about a cultural change.
Yeah, absolutely. But I personally, I would see a ton of value for Northwood to go through a process like that, to start to think about it, look at it, do some research, and understand what value we can get as a university to becoming a more sustainable university as a whole, that then gives you, added value in the marketplace to bring more students in.
Okay. Well, we have only time for a quick question. If somebody's been holding back. Yes, sir.
I have a question for Phil. With a market that enjoys brand loyalty, is that a challenge? And if so, how do you compete with that?
Sure, yeah, absolutely. So get a lot of customers that come in looking for, do you have time?
Yeah.
Right? Not knowing the concept completely. So it's a matter of just making sure that I do my research and products that we carry to make sure that they're just as good, if not better, than all these other products out there. Once I get someone in the door is when I can sell to them, they can test the product, and then they keep coming back. So even though they have that brand loyalty for bigger corporations right now, it's fine. But if you're open-minded enough to give something else a chance, typically that person's going to stick with it because they're already coming in with the sustainability mindset.
Okay. Is it more cost efficient that way too?
So some products in the store are more costly than your typical products because they are eco-based, but generally you're going to see a very similar price range. So.
Okay, well, this panel did not disappoint. I want to thank all of you for coming here today and enlightening us, and we certainly congratulate you on your success and wish you good luck with your continuing efforts. Thank you very much.